by my house, there's a shopping
Uh-huh.
strip,
Yep.
so I walk up there.
Please tell all the people this because we're now live now. So
I'm buying chips.
being me some chips. All right. All right. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to this Mech Talks. I am beginning the stream here. Forgive me. I'm posting out. Doing the spamming going on Twitters and promoting our thing. So give me a second. While we wait, I'm going to go ahead and just activate some music. So, ready, set, go! Oh, that got quiet all of a sudden. There we go. That's a bit better. So, alright. So how are you two doing today?
Good. Awful.
Yeah, I heard
Awful.
about you. Yeah. You doing alright, Matt? You dying from your cold?
No, I'm not dying from it. I mean, obviously not if I'm walking up to a store.
Darn! My goals of killing you has failed!
I'm just hoping I don't get ran over by a car.
Yeah, don't do that. That's bad for you.
Where is the stream? Like, what is the link to the stream?
I have posted it.
www.youtubething.com.
Here, I'll post it in the chat so you can be able to see. Killing you has failed. Oh, wow, that's loud. Woo! All right, forgive us, guys. This is about the 5 minutes where we sit here and we try to figure out what the snot's going on. There you go, Mamaru. Alrighty, and then let's post this into the MEHQ chat so that they know what's going on.
And I knew that YouTube thing. It's just so I can, like, obviously I'm not gonna just so I can look at the chat.
Yeah, because
doing this shit.
I'd like to take some questions from the chat if some people. All right, we are live.
And I'm the only one watching.
Well, that's because nobody knows about us. It's because we're not famous. It's because I'm too beautiful. All right. All right. We'll be answering questions and the such on Gunpla and techniques. I can't spell techniques. Gunpla building and techniques. Building and techniques. Sorry, guys, I'm running a little bit behind. I usually would have done this a little bit ago, but unfortunately I was having issues with the stream, so I couldn't. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't streaming because my encoder was not. It was not doing it. Well, it wasn't doing it. 1080, and YouTube was like, "It's not working. Why isn't it working?" So. Y'all's questions. All right. But to the one person who here, hey, Mom Mario.
Hello.
How you doing? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good today, actually.
Cool.
Can't complain.
Well, you could. You can feel free to complain all you want. You know. Boop. All right. Shared on MHQ, so maybe a couple people will hop on and let me load up the questions that people had. So Matt's going to be a little bit off and on because he's out and about doing chores.
I think he's getting cold medicine, actually. Because, he has to feed his alcoholism. So.
Yeah, I have to do that, and I have to buy chips to also feel good.
All right. Because chips are extremely important for the daily lives of well, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe you. Don't lie to me, Mamoru. Don't talk to me that way, Mamoru. All right. Okay. I've got the questions loaded up here for the fine gentleman.
Thank God.
All right. You guys ready to start on this? How's
Pretty much.
pretty much? I was gonna say, get it over with, Russell. Oh. All right. Now we got nobody watching. Oh, I feel bad. Not really. I feel good. Oh, we got 2 people watching. Hello, second person who isn't Mamaru. Hi, how you doing?
Probably Yahtzee. I'm just gonna guess.
Maybe.
Actually, no. I think he's probably like watching the Go Gygar stream. Probably.
Probably. Oh.
Okay, whatever.
Well, SPR was kind enough to retweet the thing 5 minutes ago. Cool. So awesome. All right. Although nobody replied on Twitter. So that means no questions from Twitter. So that means we're probably going to take any and all from the chat here. So if you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll get to some of them. So, all right. Y'all ready?
You ready
for this?
Okay. I'm ready to answer some Gunpla questions.
Okay. This is a question from Ed Kwan. How often do you use modeling putty to smooth out and eliminate seam lines in your kit?
It depends on the kit. Like, do you want to go first or should I go first?
Go ahead first. Go ahead.
Okay. Like, honestly, not often. I mean, like, I've done it before, but not often because you can actually just use, like, a thicker super glue, and that does the same thing.
Yeah, putty is not, for me, putty is kind of for customizations more than hiding, per se, because most of the time when you're trying to remove seam lines or little details or imperfections or chunks taken out when you cut plastic off, you can do it just by sanding, usually for me. Now, taking chunks out, yeah, putty's a little bit better, but you can use glue too. So, I've never really used putty for that purpose to smooth it out, because like you said, when you use modeling glue, it tends to leave a little seam, especially the thin kind from like Tamiya and everything, that just fuses the plastic together, which is super glue, I think, kind of does that. It just leaves a little bit of flashing, and you sand that off and you're good. And so that, and most model kits, maybe except for the exception being a couple areas in high grade sometimes, most model kits, especially master grades, seam lines are not too big of a problem, because thankfully...
Not anymore.
Yeah. Thankfully, Bandai leaves a beveled edge, so it looks like it's just a part of the hatch instead of a seam line. We can hear you buying your stuff. Yeah, I don't use modeling putty for that much. Although, if you do want to go that approach, you can buy, like, Tester's Contour Putty, which is a bit better to me than Tamiya Putty. Have you guys ever used any modeling putty?
Yeah, you have to be careful with it, though, because, honestly, it's probably best to get some tools to work with, because you have to spread it on really thin. Otherwise, you're going to be there forever sanding stuff off.
Yeah, because putty's really thick. But the one kind that I like is the Tester's Contour Putty. It's more like Play-Doh than Tamiya's putty, which is more like a paste. And it's kind of, you can actually roll it up into balls, and it doesn't get your hands nearly as dirty when you're using it. So it's a little bit easier to manipulate, and it takes a little bit longer to, well, it may dry actually faster than I think of it. But I prefer that. But Testers can be for like smaller areas. Let's say you have like just score marks from where you're sanding and everything. A little bit better for that, because it can get in there in the grooves a little bit easier. So I'd recommend using that. So, but yeah, for each kit, just do what works is what I'm going to probably be saying throughout all of this episode. So, all right. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. So the next one is probably the most common question, as he even states in his question, and this comes from JP Orr. A common but necessary question. What is the best way to eliminate nub marks? Take it away.
I don't know. Like, best way to get rid of those nubs is really just to cut as close as you can to the plastic, and then file them down or cut it off.
Yeah, the best way to actually remove nubs is whatever way works for you. You know, that sounds kind of like, well, no, you dingus. But for some people, it involves using a knife. For others, it involves using files. For some people, it involves using sandpaper. Some people don't even do any of those and just use the nippers and cut it down to as flesh as they can, or as flush as they can, not flesh. As they cut it down to the flesh. That's a very different meaning. But I guess the best way to eliminate nub marks, in my opinion, is get a good pair of nippers.
Yeah.
And this is like professional. If you want this to look perfect without having to paint, cut it down to as flush to the plastic as you can. You know, get a good pair that you can do that. If you don't have a good pair, cut it away from it so you have just a little bit sticking out, you know. Because what happens is when you cut it often is the plastic gets a stress mark around it from the pressure the nippers applies, and that's where you get that white discoloration. So if you don't have a great pair of nippers, do it away from it, you know, right up next to the edge of the little bulb from where the little stem hits into the piece itself. Just cut there and leave that little nub mark, and then take a file or a sandpaper with something maybe like 600 grain or maybe 400 grain, and just sand it down to a point where it's pretty smooth. And then after that, take a 100 grain, or not a 100 grain, 1,000 grain sandpaper, and sand that down. And if there's any color imperfections or any issues, use markers, like Creos markers or Gundam markers, to lightly put over to the plastic. You know, if it's a red piece, use red. If a blue piece, use blue. Black kind of works on blue, so.
I have a step that I normally do before.
Uh-huh.
Am I coming in okay?
Yeah, you're coming fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a step that I normally do prior to all that. I do it with both customizing models or figures, or doing the model kits when you're nubbing, when you're trying to cut the nubs off. And this goes back to, since I didn't get to answer the putty question, but what I normally do is I take the plastic trays and I boil water and I let it get warm, and
And
there's a motorcycle going by.
okay. Live reporting at the scene, Matthew Kyle.
Sorry, I'm on the phone. I normally boil water and let it cool down a little bit, and then I put the trays inside the water, let them sit there for not 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Make sure it's really soapy. You put the soap in, you take like a butter knife and stir it around. Then when it out, when they make these model kits or figures or anything, they there's another motorcycle coming. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. I have created a censor warning. So warning everybody, there will be language. That's why this is called Mech Talks RAW, because I can't censor people, because I'm a control freak.
He is a control freak.
But as you were saying, Matt.
So when they're making these products, they have they're put into a plastic and a plastic mold and everything. And
Yeah.
when they pull it out of the plastic mold, there's still some moisture residue inside of it. So you want
Well,
to get that out.
there's a mold release chemical that they spray onto it, which helps the plastic not stick to the metal frame that's used for the injections. So,
but it's good to wash them, because when you want to go ahead and start cutting the nubs off, it'll actually make the plastic smoother, and that way when you're cutting, sometimes when people cut, they'll cut like a little bit too down,
Yeah.
You won't have that problem. You'll put the X-Acto blade on it. It'll cut the nub off a lot smoother and a lot quicker than if you just were building the model normally.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it also helps with paint.
Yeah.
It makes paint adhere quicker. So
Yeah.
that's what I normally do for nub marks. I do that, and then I do the X-Acto blade, and then I file it down.
See, I prefer just not the X-Acto blade, the filing approach, because it's kind of what's traditionally been accepted. But I know a lot of people use the knife approach where they just cut it. But when you cut nub marks, it tends to, you take a chunk out of it, like a little depression builds from where you're slowly kind of shaving away at the plastic to make it smooth. And it usually looks like crap to me. But if you're building it for fun, that's an approach I think that's perfectly fine. You know, do
I
what
don't
works.
build models
Yeah.
for fun. I build
Yeah.
them for serious political reasons.
Yeah, I'm usually really lazy, and I actually don't wash my model kits before I like build them and shit. But I should. I just like, yeah. I just like, I'm like, I don't have time for that. Whatever.
It makes it a lot, and like I know this goes against like what the original question is, but there's another tip when you're building the model kit, and if you're planning on scratch painting it, or like you don't like the color, so you're going to paint the entire thing over again, sand the model down, even if there's no problems with it. Sand the model down, and then go and prime it or paint it, whatever you're going to do.
So I would prime it because when you prime it, you can kind of see the imperfections, like mold imperfections. And if you want to move the joints around and you want to have a little bit of some fun with it, you can see where some joints may be too tight and rubbing against the paint job. So you can go back through and clean it and like clean up the joints a little bit.
If you sand it down, it'll give the paint something to grip onto.
Yeah, but even on joints, you can still, it's an inevitability. I had that issue with the Master Grade Quanta I painted. Was the knees would scrape the back of the.
There's a way to get past that.
Yeah, I just shaved it down so it wouldn't. Yeah, that was what I was talking about. Is you can modify the plastic so it doesn't scrap into the plastic into the paint job and ruin your paint job. And I had already painted it up too, so I was like, golly, I'd painted this already. I'd primed it too. But
all right, I'm gonna be entering my living residence. I'm gonna be on mute for a couple minutes.
All right, but in the end, JP, the best way to eliminate it is your method. Although I think sanding would probably be the cleanest, especially if you get some really high grit, like 10,000 grain sandpaper, or like 3,000 or 5,000 grain sandpaper, where you can return it to looking like plastic. Although that being said, there will still be a tiny, tiny little nub mark discoloration. I found that out, but it's so minuscule and so subtle. This is like me being nitpicky. That's the only reason why I even know about it. So you're good on that front, Mr. JP. If you just do a little bit of some sanding and also clean it off like Matthew had stated. So but
yeah, don't be lazy like me and not wash your models like before you start cutting them off the sprues. Just do it.
Yeah. Well, or you can buy like a $30 Sonic cleaner, but you still have to cut them off to fit them in a $30 priced one. But see. But all right, we got another one from.
At least rinse them off. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just use hand soap. Just use a little bit of hand soap, so long as it doesn't have lotion mixed in.
Yeah.
Hand soap, a toothbrush, and bada bing, bada boom, you got it. So, all right, to the next question we go. What are your thoughts on stickers versus water slide decals versus dry transfers?
Dry transfers are a pain in the ass. Don't use them because they always suck. Don't use dry transfers. Yeah, just use the water slides. Stickers are okay in some cases, but try to avoid them when you can because they can look really crappy sometimes. Because like you'll see like the little edges of the stickers.
Dry transfer isn't that bad as long as you rub it down enough. Um, I typically don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people don't like it because you gotta get like small scissors and cut them out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I typically don't have a problem with them. Um, but I do prefer water slide. When it comes
Yeah,
to stickers
definitely.
and stuff, when it comes to stickers and stuff, it depends. I know with I like that's one of the things I don't like about the real grade line is I don't like the stickers.
Well, I think when he says stickers, well, I think he may be meaning those type of stickers. I was thinking foil stickers, the type you get for like high grade kits all the time.
Well,
But
they're pretty much the same thing. It's because you get those kind of stickers in high grades too. It's just they're made to look like decals.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, they're to me. I think the best ones would be water slide decals because it's a combination of it's like a trade off between stickers and dry transfer. Dry transfers, I think, look the best, especially on bare plastic, because it looks like they've been painted on, and they're usually quite a bit more brighter than stickers and water slides. But they're very damage sensitive. They can be scratched off really easily, and you can screw up transferring them onto the plastic, especially when have a piece that's like this ball shape and it has to have this giant sticker across it, and you're like, how the heck am I supposed to put this on? But for stickers, I don't like them because they leave a raised point. That and they're mildly translucent. So anything underneath, if there's a color difference, you can notice it. So at the end of it, I prefer water slide decals because it's a trade off between look and ease. Stickers being the easiest thing to put on, and transfers being the best looking, but water slides being both to me. And if you're competent, you can be able to put water slides on, add a little bit of top coat, and it's fine and it looks great.
Yeah.
It's the hobbyist standard, I think, for a reason. So, but yeah, I'd go with water slides if you can. If you don't have time for it, or you like to play with your models, go for stickers. And just let's not deal with dry transfers unless it's a flat surface and you're safe to say that you can rub it on and it looks good. But anything else, guys?
You could draw it on and be a real man.
You could paint it on with
Paint it on, yeah.
yeah, hand paint it with a thingy like they used to do in the olden days back in my day. All right.
I don't have the what do you call it? The hands for that. I can't do that stuff.
Oh, you don't have your hands are pretty. You got twitchy hands.
Yeah, even when it comes to making because you kind of have to do that stuff when you're making figures because they don't really make decals for certain things for that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to draw the stuff on, and it takes forever. You have to typically draw an outline of it on paper and then stick it up to it and then draw it on and then go back and paint it.
You could just make a stencil, which would be another option for a quote-unquote decal, but when you got stuff like Verkad decals, which are tiny little red things, that's kind of hard to do. So
you can sometimes get people. There are a couple companies online that will make you decals. It's not like it can be kind of expensive though.
That's true. I have the Perfect Grade Unicorn, and I did not like the Chinese aftermarket unicorn pre-cut set that they have on eBay and all that Jimmy Jazz. I thought they looked like butt. So I contacted a wonderful, wonderful decal maker called Samuel Decal and asked him, do you have a set that looks great? And he did. He sent it to me, and I was expecting it to have like broken English gibberish for the words, but no, it was perfect English. Everything was marking right. Who's eating? Just crunch. Smiled. Strange noises in the distance. But no, he did a good job. So if you ever need decals that are fairly professional, talk to Samuel Decal. He is an extremely busy guy, though, so he might not be able to contact you for like maybe even a month sometimes. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I'd recommend him if you ever need water slide decals. So moving on. How do you find time to work on models? Matthew.
I don't. I neglect my job and my family.
I have no life.
And I sit in a room, and when people are like, Matthew, you gotta eat, I'm like, no, I gotta finish this Wing Zero Verka.
Yeah.
And they're like, but Matthew, you've already done 3 of them, and I'm like, it needs to be done. My life.
He's sitting in a pile of his own like feces.
Oh, that's an image. He's like,
look like Amuro in Mobile Suit Gundam when he's eating a sandwich after what's her face died.
Yeah,
girl. But no, I typically I'll buy high grade. I'll buy so, and you guys know this. Like I'll buy so much, and then I won't do it for like a month. Because normally I go out on the weekends because I work nights and everything. But typically, maybe one day out of the month, I'll just sit down and I'll just knock out a bunch of kits. If it's a high grade or something, because when it comes to high grades, typically they're collection fillers.
Yep.
So as long as they're decent looking, I don't care about doing anything extra. And if I decide to go back and do anything extra, I'll take them apart and clean them up and all that stuff.
Yeah. So for you, it's just the fact of owning it. So you want to get the bare bones done, and bada bing, bada boom. It's on a shelf. It looks like a Gundam. You're good, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I collect other things other than Gundam models, and I have other hobbies. So it's just a matter of finding the time, which you normally just put like a weekday or a weekend away. Like I bought the Wing Zero Hono like
Oh no!
And I built the torso and or not the torso. I built the upper body, and I got the add-on parts from the magazine.
Oh, the Kettlevich 2.0.
Yeah,
it's pretty much what it is. It's just another sword.
I built the sword and I built the head. The head looks a lot cooler than the one it comes with.
I think the swords look a lot cooler than the ones it comes with.
But I built that, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's sitting on a pile of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models that I haven't touched. So
yeah, I'm kind of well, Momaru, you go next. Go ahead. I want to hear how.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just build it whenever I feel. I just build stuff whenever I feel like it. Like, like I definitely have like a backlog of kits and stuff. So like, don't ask me about that because like I just build shit when I feel like it, and it gets done when it gets done, basically. So like, just whenever basically I feel like it. Usually, on the weekends is when I do have time to build stuff. Most of the time.
Yeah. For me, I'm pretty much the same way. Finding time to build model kits is fitted in whenever I need something to relax. I don't care how, if I'm not having a good day or I just need to sit down and just decongest my brain, I'll pull out a model kit or an action figure or something and just start do and just playing with it. And for me, that's pretty much all it is. Although I've gone to the point where I will paint model kits, but that's also kind of a cost-effective thing because I could buy one Gundam model kit and have it last like 2 or 3 months, and I don't have to buy another one. I don't even have to buy another high grade. When I started painting them, I actually had this huge backlog, and I'm like, I got too many kits, but I want to paint them all. So I realized I need to cut down on my buying because they just end up wasting my money, So at the end of it, to find time is kind of plan ahead, know when you want to build, know when you want to spend time, and treat it as the hobby it is. Don't make it a chore. You know, I've heard tons of people who are like, well, I gotta find time for this. It's like, if you've got to find time for it, it's not a hobby. It's not.
Go ahead and get into the robot Damashes.
Yeah, and
It's a
I've
chore.
yeah. If you're not into building them and you kind of, it's not fun, get a Damashi or get somebody else to build it, because I know there's tons of people who are probably willing to build it and send
Be
it
like
to you.
Slomo and farm out your kits to the Mexicans.
Yeah, his Zeta building, mass produced China factory out there is, you know, it's for anybody who doesn't know, Soul Brother Ryu, who is part of the MAHQ family. His
Gosh, the way you said that.
he is a man that does not build mini kits, but has a few, because he gives them to numerous individuals within his group to have them build it for him. You know, and admittedly, he got like the PG Zeta built, or no, it was the 2.0 Zeta. That was it. So,
I think like
that's a mildly good.
yeah,
build.
I'm pretty sure it was Pedro that built it for him too. So we farmed it out to the Mexicans.
Oh, you did not make that joke.
Yes, I did.
How do you, are you in support of never mind. We're not gonna get to politics. No politics. Screw it.
I'm in support for free cheese enemas.
Free cheese animals. What? Oh golly. Oh gosh, the
It
image.
took him a second for it to say.
If anybody can tell me what
Golly.
I am referencing and what band I am referencing, you get a cookie.
Golly, that was an image you didn't need. Moving on. For the love of Pete, that was horrible, man. Would you say such crap? Oh gosh. All right, to the next question. Why is Matthew so good? He's not. Not with that vile, disgusting question.
Dude, I'm amazing.
You amazing? Okay, then.
Thank you, Matthew, for asking Matthew a question like that. You're welcome, Matthew.
Yeah, I wonder who asked that question. But okay, for the next serious question comes from Patrick William D. Guinto. Forgive me if I'm butchering your name, man. I don't mean any disrespect. Another practical question. These people love their practical and common questions. How do you paint missile pods in high grade kits? For example, the G Self's missile pod, as he shows, as well as the missile pods found on the thingy that I'm forgetting its name.
I just use I know it's lazy, and I know whoever hears this, who's like a hardcore modeler, is gonna be like, "You're not a real modeler, you pansy."
you
When it comes to the little stuff, I just take a Gundam marker and I just wipe it over, because I really have no patience to go and take a brush and hand paint it, those little details and everything. So I just use Gundam marker.
Gundam marker.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I think what he's trying to say is like if it's like a little round piece or something like that, like the best you can do is really just like clip onto one end of it somewhere and paint one side, paint like 3/4 of it and turn it, and that's about the best you can do.
But here,
honestly.
I'm pulling up a picture now. All right, this is what he's talking about. Is pretty much like a Macross Missile Massacre set, where it's just the pods that fire out. Yeah, Matt, you said you don't like to hand paint them. If you don't like hand painting, then that makes things difficult. I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, because hand painting is the best option for this. You know, because it just makes your life a little bit easier. Because even if
it's not that I don't like hand painting,
you just don't like painting in general.
I don't mind hand painting. It's when it comes to like little details
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that.
Well, getting in between the pods themselves, you know, getting in there.
I don't feel like doing that stuff half the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I got into the custom figure making, because that's something that I want to go in and do little details on.
So you can get good at it.
Yeah, but when it comes to something that I'm probably not going to display, like I hardly ever display something with missile pods open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not going to go and paint them up, and that's kind of my advice to people. If you're trying to get into modeling and everything, um, if you're not going to display something, I don't see the deep. Maybe don't push yourself to go and do all the extra detail and
Yeah.
everything because you could end up ruining something and
Mm.
now you have a busted kit. That happened to me when I was first getting into models. My first model ever was the 1/144 high grade. Well, when I first started collecting, it wasn't my first model ever, but my first Gundam collector model was the 1/144 high grade Exia, and I
Yeah,
tried
that
painting.
that needed a lot of paint apps, even the clear bits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tried painting the vents on his face yellow. And at the time, I didn't understand paint and white and yellow and everything.
It never comes off.
And
Not easily.
I failed miserably. I had like this puke. It looked like a dog peed on it, and it stained because it was kind of greenish.
Yeah.
Um, so like I had this my favorite Gundam head destroyed, and I had to go out and buy another one. So yeah, if you're getting into models and you want to start getting into painting, you want to start learning how to paint those small details. Um, Buy an SD model.
Well, yeah, those are perfect for that. Those are
Yeah.
stupidly perfect for that.
Buy like a really cheap kit that you don't really care about. Like seriously, go buy like a first grade or something like that.
Oh
Because
yeah,
like
that's perfect. Especially the double O and the age first grades or
Yeah,
the
because
advanced grades or
they're
whatever.
they're only like 3 colors at the most. You know,
Mm-hmm.
white,
so
blue, and red usually. But
so they're like they're like $5 maybe, and they're just great to kind of mess with and be like, oh, I want to try something new on kind of
yeah.
things.
But I guess to give a bit more of a, if you really want to do this kind of thing, is there's a couple options. You can mask it using masking tape, obviously, and then just airbrush or spray brush, spray paint onto it, which would be very difficult to get in between the pods themselves.
No,
But
I've done it.
yeah, you.
It's not that hard. You just need to do like 2 or 3 layers and you'll get it done.
Well, no. I'm not talking about the painting itself. I'm talking about masking it. Is you gotta sometimes you gotta wrap them on there, or you can use putty, like not contour putty, but um, like sticky tack. Sticky tack has been a very great commodity. You can wrap it around each piece, or if you're gonna go the hand brush route, thin the paint down so it is a little runny and keep it level, and just allow the paint to run in between the missiles themselves, and just do a little bit of cleanup in between and more noticeable areas so it is kind of consistent. It looks professional and looks like looks like missiles are sticking out instead of these blobs attached to this gray piece.
Yep.
So you can go the opposite route. You can hand instead of the base and just hand paint each missile on whatever color. Like in this picture here, you see the missile pods are blue, which painting them red would be difficult, but not impossible. I think white would probably look well, since it'd probably end up being a pale kind of bluish color after you hand paint them with white. But
Or
or
just go the amazing route and blow everyone away by just buying some cotton, gluing it to the missile pods, and then go out and buying like army missiles, and there you go. You got a diorama.
True.
I like your inventiveness.
I'm dead serious. That's all
No,
you need. You
no.
buy like some paper clips and like stick it into the end of the missile and have it look like it's actually firing
Yeah,
missiles.
just make it look like it's literally firing.
And
Yeah.
then put cotton around the missile or
So
the paper clip.
yeah. Well, there you go. There's another option, and it's far more impactful. But All right, moving on to moving on to the next set of questions from Facebook. Here, let's double check here. Does anybody got poor Shoji Ramuro? Yeah, that's right. He got Shoji to build it, and he hates Gundam. Oh, that's right. He does not like Gundam, and Sobro got him to build the Zeta 2.0. Oh, I forgot that.
That must be like watching the child that you never really wanted.
Being forced
Be
to
like,
take care of him.
giving the son that you never wanted a bath, and you're just like, all it takes is
No. It's not even your son. It's somebody else's son. But they told you if you build it for them, they'll give you $5 to take care of him. It's like you don't even care. You don't like it. You think he's annoying. He's snot running down his nose or something. You're like, this thing is just gross. Oh, man. Oh, man, I forgot that. But that's pretty funny. All right. Moving on to the next question. This one comes from Michael Robert Santos. And his is, how do you deal with nubs on awkward places and small pieces like the fingers of real grade kits? Those things are difficult to sand due to their small size. Indeed. And also because real grade plastic is like mildly rubber-like, so it doesn't sand at all.
I do the same thing that I would do with a master race, just on a smaller scale. You just same thing you do with any other kind of nub. You cut it off, and then you take whatever a little piece of sandpaper, whatever, and just sand over it, and you just make sure you don't get any of the detail out, like the curves of the fingers or anything, the knuckles and everything, and then just paint over it.
See, the thing with real grades that I've come to realize is they are a pain in the butt to sand, period. Just because of the plastic is difficult. They're not.
Is it softer?
It is a softer plastic. That's why it is.
Are you talking about like the inner frame and kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. Is like the little,
that kind of stuff. The best way to get rid of it, honestly, is to cut it down as close as you can to the piece, and then actually cut whatever extra is off with like a really tiny X-Acto knife. That's the best way to do it.
And if to get into small areas, you just have to have the proper tools. You can buy, and I know probably Japan has better places here than here in America because they love to have specialized tools. But you can buy sanding sticks that are like small and they have a very tapered end on them that are very small and rounded. So if let's say you have this little hole that has a nub in it, you need to clean it out so something fits in there perfectly. You can buy sanding sticks that can help you do that. And for awkward places, you just got to figure out how to approach it. If you've got to do it just one little slide at a time and it's just laborious, you just do it. I've had tons of kits that they put a nub mark in between like an archway kind of shape, and it's like I can't fit sandpaper in there or my files really in there. I gotta figure out how to. Usually I use a knife is what I use to cut it in there because those parts are usually a place where you don't see nub marks anyway. But I think a knife would probably be your best option if you don't have small sanding sticks or small sanding kind of files of some kind. So
use a gun.
Use a gun. Just shoot it. Just shoot it.
Shoot it.
It's like he shoots the nub clean off, and
I don't think I ever told this story, but a buddy of mine, he started building Zoid models, and that failed miserably. And he sent me a video. He was like, how do you like my build? And it was a video of him burning the box. And all you hear is the plastic cracking and curdling.
Just like, oh.
And you're like, he's breathing it in, and it's poisonous. It's melting plastic. Oh, goodness. All right, let's go back to my slideshow. But, oh, dear, oh goodness. Oh goodness
I gotta
sake.
pull up the Marvel, but
The Marvel thing. Here's another one from Anthony Schneidwind. It's not per se a question, but I think it's something that we should kind of cover. I think some people would be interested in. He says, I can't wait to hear about custom painting techniques, and I haven't tried one yet, but would like to learn. Do you gentlemen have any custom painting techniques that you would like to share with the audience?
Or you mean just like painting techniques in general?
Yeah, because the next few questions are pretty much all about painting. So why don't we get us started on it?
If you're starting out, you want to starting off with like the little details. You want to start off with Gundam markers. You want to learn how to blend in plastic with painting and stuff like that, with your num marks and everything, touching up. And then I would go from there to spray paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With like masking tape, learning how to mask stuff off. Go to spray paint. Because spray paint, if you get the right kind of spray paint,
Enamels.
you can get a product that you actually looks nice. Especially if you get matte finish spray paint, which is like
It's the matte is the not you Matt, but Matt Paint with an E is the cover up all your mistakes paint.
Yeah, pretty much, but it looks nice when you're done because it fills in any gaps or anything, and it feels nice. And it's when I first started painting, you didn't need primer or a clear coat or a top coat. I'm sorry.
Same thing, different name.
But you didn't need any of that because it dried quick, and it's rough but not too rough, where it feels kind of smooth. It feels good to your hand.
I think it would be
paint's not chipping off.
Yeah, I think it would. It's kind of like cardboard paper. You know, it's kind of feels like it is like a paper consistency. It's just a soft kind of a soft kind of. I don't know where I'm going with that, but go ahead, Mama.
Yeah, I was just say like you kind of have to be careful with the spray paint, just because like you can get like really
Oh yeah.
I mean, like if you're not like, it depends on the spray paint. If you're buying like the Tamiya spray paint or like the Tester spray paint, you don't have to worry about this. But like if you're buying like actual spray paint like from like a store, like I don't know, like
buy Krylon.
Yeah, like Krylon or something. Sometimes you'll have this issue where you'll get this thing called orange peel, which is where like you've got this, like your kit will look like it's got like an orange skin on it, basically, because it has like these weird dimples on it.
That's
from the particulates in the paint being too big.
Well, that's a combination of things at play. Is humidity can cause it, overspray can cause it, and just maybe there was water in the can. Sometimes it screws it up. You know, it's not something you can completely control, because sometimes I've had to sand kits that I've had orange peel on. It's like crud, but yeah, spray cans tend to be pretty ugly about that. Although Tamiya and testers try not to do that. And at the end of that, if you're doing a spray canned paint scheme, the best thing you can do is to do the lightest coats, again and again and again and again, and that should not orange peel. It's more likely shouldn't. It's more likely to do that if it's a gloss coat. That's why Matt's kind of saying do matte, do a flat coat. That's another name for matte with an E, MATE. Do a flat coat because it does not, even if it does do it, it kind of disappears, you know. But why a gloss coat? It looks hideous. It looks like an ugly, warty thing that's like, ugh. But
you have to be careful with that. The other thing is that you can try, but like again, like you want to test it first, is automotive spray paint will also work a lot of the
Ooh.
time. It's just that some of the automotive spray paint does have like bigger particulates in it, so it's
Uh-huh.
not so good for small things like models.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get something that looks like a really like super gloss, that's a really good way to get it, is to use automotive paint, spray paint like that.
Yeah. So
I typically I like mixing gloss and dry brush kind of effects to kind of give it like a. Some parts are dull, but some parts are like really shiny and looks like it's
Mhm.
really new. Um, that's what I like to do. But I
hmm.
mean, if you're not gonna use spray paint, I would suggest either becoming really good with a brush or getting an airbrush.
Yeah, that's the last and final line down the road of custom painting. Because once you get to an airbrush, you can do such fine detail. So long as you have the appropriate airbrush for it, you can do such fine and magnificent little detailing. Shading. You can do custom stuff, and I've usually when people are doing the spray can method, they're spraying on the usually they're spraying the parts on the frame and then cutting them out, which I think is like, oh,
Don't do that.
I don't like that because once you cut the nubs, you still got these hideous nub marks
Yeah,
from where you.
I when because I still use spray paint every now and then. You just cut the parts out and then you put them on the sprues, like little sprues out in like your garage or something.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You can cut them
which
out and
you can make like your own.
spray booth.
You if you're gonna, I guess that's another thing you should get. If you're gonna spray, if you're gonna use spray paint or an airbrush or whatever, you kind of want your own booth. Which mine is just a cheap little box that I got from a store, and then for like the clips to hold the parts, I just cut off plastic trees and put sticky putty on them, and I
Mm.
just stick it on the parts. It's cheap and you're recycling.
Well, another cheap option is you can go to Walmart and for like $3 or $4 buy just bamboo, bamboo skewers. Those are pretty cheap, and you get like a pack of 50. So, the only thing that isn't per se cheap is buying a set of electrical clips. The little alligator clips that can pinch onto model kits, so you can
Yeah.
grab onto a tiny bit, so you can paint the whole piece. But you could probably find those on like Amazon or electrical stores for like $5 for a pack of 20. And you may even find them $5 for a pack of 50, just depending on where you get them. But those are probably your best bet if you want to paint each and every piece, that's what I do. I have a box full of skewers with alligator clips on them, and I just have them. I stick them in a piece of foam, and they stand
Yeah.
there. I paint them by hand in my spray booth and stick them in a piece of foam, and it's worked out for me. I'm not
Yep.
perfect yet, but be good. So,
Did you? Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Honestly, like what I've done is I do what is it? The I have like a block of wood that has a bunch of holes drilled into it, and I've got chopsticks that I stick into the wood, and then I just put some like sticky putty on the end of the chopstick, and I stick it onto the underside of the piece.
yeah,
That works pretty good.
yeah. So, all right, moving on to our next paint-related question. Unless Matt, did you have something you wanted to say?
Do you want to go over? Do you want to go over how to hand brush?
Well, how about we leave that for last here, because I think this is a bit more important in terms of the basics of painting. What is your preference on paint types, enamel versus acrylic versus lacquer, and the prep that goes into it? That's a question from Mark Bell. That's a good question.
Enamel.
That's
Yes.
Acrylic is way too easy to chip away. It it never looks as well as enamels, or it's not, acrylic isn't even made
Well,
to stick to plastic.
let me break it down to this. I'll be scientific here. Is enamel and
God, here we go.
he's like, oh, here we go, another monologue by Russell. Enamel and lacquer are oil-based paints. That means they're not affected by water. So mixing them with water is a horrible, terrible idea because they're oil. You know, water and oil don't mix. Why acrylic is a water-based paint, which means you can use water and rubbing alcohol to mix it together. Acrylic is the weakest paint to stick and bond to plastic model kits, but it is also the easiest to use and also the easiest to clean up because, like I said, you can use water and rubbing alcohol to clean up if you screw up.
And not lacquer thinner instead.
Yeah, actually, lacquer is, and acrylic's also less toxic. Is another thing.
Ooh, a lot.
Yeah, so if you want to start out model building and painting, I'd recommend starting with acrylic first. Once you get a handle on it. So.
Yeah, they're acrylics are the most forgiving. I personally do not like to use lacquers or enamels because I always wind up getting like high off of them, kind of, and get like I do. Like I'll admit, like I always wind up with a headache when I work with them, so I prefer not to use them. And I also hate having to use the freaking like lacquer thinner and stuff.
You gotta clean
it up.
Are you doing this in your bathroom when you're sitting there going? Psh, psh, psh. What are you doing to get high on painting model kits? Oh, I'm just sitting here trying to imagine. Just like, Mom, Ari, what are you doing? Sitting there sniffing the little can of enamel.
But yeah, that's why I don't do enamels because like I always end up getting headaches when I work with it, and I'm just like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
I just like I understand like some people definitely don't like acrylics just because they're not quite as quote unquote permanent, but they're so easy to work with, relatively speaking. They clean up really well.
Yeah.
And they clean up so easily.
But Matt, you were going to state your preference for enamel and lacquer.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I'm a big boy, and I'm just kidding.
Because I like to sniff and not paint. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had a bad experience with acrylic when I first got in the building models.
Is this a story where acrylic touched me or something? like it done bad things to me?
No, that's the Gundam markers. No, I was building a double low riser, and it all comes back to yellow paint. And I was painting. You remember?
Heaven forbid you have a bumblebee.
High grade double low riser. It was the really cool designer color one.
Oh, the red one? No, the pale blue one. That's it.
Yeah, that one. I really like that one.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
I should go back and buy it, but I don't want to get that. But at the time when the show was out, that was the only way to get both the 00 and the 00 riser in one kit.
Oh, really?
I bought acrylic paint from Walmart to paint the V fin, the top of the V fin.
Yeah, because it wasn't yellow.
Yes, because you had the sticker and it only covered the front.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit at the top, but yeah.
Yeah, and that bothered me because the way I wanted to display him, you would have seen the white part.
Yeah, it would have been like, why is it? Oh, yeah.
So I started painting it, and the paint, and I know how to draw and all that stuff, so I know how to use paint and everything, and I know how to thin it all out and everything. So I'm thinning the paint out, and I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and we're sitting at the kitchen table, and she's talking to me, and I'm painting the V-fin, and next thing you know, the paint is like it's drying up.
Yeah, it dries faster. Acrylics do.
As it's drying up, the paint starts to literally chip like I don't know how to describe it. I've never had this experience before, and I never want to have this experience again.
Maybe you
It
had
starts dissolving the V-fin.
dissolving.
Yes, it starts.
What the hell kind?
That's
What
not
kind
acrylic, man.
That's not acrylic.
It was acrylic.
I-
It had acrylic in big white letters.
They mixed it with some oil based thinner, but that's not acrylic, man. Acrylic. I have never heard of acrylics chipping and breaking plastic. This must be some sort of Walmart.
That can actually happen sometimes with enamel if you're not careful. Is like you can melt the plastic with
Yeah, I decided
with enamel paints.
to do an enamel wash on a Real Grade Freedom, and then I had a broken, crumbled piece of mass Real Grade Freedom because it just shattered. It literally, like chunks of it, like it was some old 300-year-old statue that was falling apart. Just chunks of it falling off because the enamel thinner would somehow find like little imperfections in the plastic, seep in there, widen the gap, and then crack it in half. And you're like, my gosh, how is this stuff doing this? It's radioactive.
That's the thing I would also like to say. If you're going to use acrylic paints, do yourself a favor and stay away from like the craft paint and buy yourself like the actual like model paints from like Testers or Tamiya or whatever.
It's not us supporting brand affiliations. It's because they design their paints and their chemicals to fit your needs,
like the craft paint is usually like really thick and like has like
it's
chunky.
It's some of it's latex paint, it
actually has some latex or some shit in there too. And it's good if you're like painting crafts, but it's not good for painting models. Just don't do yourself a favor and just don't use it.
What Matt says about it, sloughing off and it's not very strong. Latex paints are even worse because they don't even adhere to the plastic at all. You can pull it off like a skin. So don't even if you think it's latex, don't even use it. You'd make sure it may say even acrylic on it, and it's actually more like latex because acrylic is kind of, like I said, it's attributed to water-based paints, and so are latex. So just be aware of that when you're buying it. So that's why stick with like Testers or Tamiya or
don't buy paint
Model
from
Masters.
Walmart.
Yeah, don't buy paint from Walmart either.
Or because apparently it's made out of the blood of your ex-girlfriends.
And they just want to destroy everything about you. Apparently, all your hard work,
all the hard work that you put in, they just tear it away. They take the kids.
Yeah, but I guess for one last thing for enamel and lacquer is enamel paints. Enamel and lacquer both need their own form of thinner. You have to buy it specifically. Lacquer paints are actually hard to buy, period, in America. But you can buy lacquer thinner at Walmart. So, there you go. Because it's good for stripping varnish and things like that. It's the strongest paint thinner you can buy, but it will melt plastic. It will turn it into mush. So don't put any of the thinners on there. And for lacquer, you should not spray directly onto a plastic piece lacquer paint. If you need to, put a mild amount of clear coat on it, or a primer to make it look, to prevent that. Sometimes you can get away with it if it's just a thin, small amount and you're not doing it over, not doing it too much. But beware of that. And I think, Matt, you were going to say it earlier, but acrylics don't look that great, but they're good on the dime and they're the easiest to find. Enamels look good, but I think lacquers look the best. They're usually brighter to me.
Like that's like what I was kind of gonna say is like if you're gonna use like kind of like that kind of paint, like usually like how you find it is it's probably gonna be an automotive paint.
Lacquers are automotive paint's the only place you can get lacquer, but it's unfortunately highly, highly, highly regulated because it is highly, highly, highly poisonous. It's not if you're spraying that stuff, wear a mask. Do not risk it. Wear a mask.
Don't listen to Russell. He's a real man.
Don't
you
be
want to huff that shit. It's good.
don't be like Maru who's sniffing it. He's he's about to drink it and he's like, no, I'll just
What you want to do is you want to cook that shit and you want to inject it in your bloodstream.
Gotta minimize that shit, yeah.
But doctor, how did he die? He injected himself with enamel paint. We don't know why.
He injected himself with some dank ass paint.
Dang. I've seen pictures of people who huff paint and they get caught and they just have like this silvery just stuff all over their face because they spray it into bags and then
Yeah, they look like those guys from the new Mad Max movie that get like spray their faces.
Apparently there's an edible version of that you can buy. Oh man. I would recommend to use caution with an enamel and lacquer and even acrylic to some degree. It's not also good for you either. But be in a well ventilated area, have a mask for lacquer and enamel paints, and just be slow and steady, just like coats, and just be careful for lacquer. It is, like I said, it is kind of me.
Like, one thing that you do that is kind of different about acrylics versus enamel is that enamel, you usually don't have to do too many coats, where with acrylics you will have to do multiple coats to reach the same kind of color as what is it, as an enamel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
here's the
wouldn't
other fun thing about this is that you can actually get some interesting effects if you put one kind of paint on top of the other. So like what I mean is, like, if you put enamel on top of acrylic, you can actually do that, and it's really good for like if you're trying to get a wash kind of so you're trying to like kind of make it look a little like dirty or something.
Mhm.
That's like a really good way of doing it, is actually using the two different kinds of paints, because they don't interact with each other.
Yeah, they don't. You can spray one over the other if you're careful. It's not recommended. If it's primer, then I think it's fine, no matter what type of paint. But if you spray like enamels over acrylics, it tends to crack. Same for acrylics over enamels. Lacquer sticks to everything. That's why it's the best. But yeah, like he said, if you're doing a wash, acrylics over enamel paint shouldn't affect enamel. It kind of can if you use too much like rubbing alcohol on it, but if you're careful, it shouldn't too much.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but anything else, Dad?
Well, I guess we'll talk about airbrushing next a little bit, but
Yep. We got another question from Rob Mallard. He says, "Hello. Right now, I've been using sprays for a few years, but towards September, I'm going to transition to airbrushing." Yes. In regards to airbrushing, he's good for you. What kind of paints do you prefer? Brand, acrylics, etc. And could you recommend any good equipment for a beginner? Also, any one particular online tutorial? Do you clean your pieces before priming? If so, how do you go about it? Thanks.
Since I just bought an airbrush, do you want me to go ahead with this?
I'll go ahead. I probably have the most experience, probably. Let's see. Airbrushing paints, as we stated earlier, start out with acrylics. Learn how to do it. Figure out how to get that milky kind of consistency for mixing paints for airbrushing, because it's kind of.
You're telling me to just pour milk over my mama?
Yes, exactly. Because see, that'll work. That's yeah. So long as you mix paint in there with it too.
This is gonna be the best paint job ever.
Watch, it's like it absorbs the power of milk. It's like it's cow.
Absorbs the power of milk.
Yeah. But start with acrylics. As for brand, don't do Vallejo. I tried Vallejo. They're good hand paints. They're terrible spray airbrush paints. They're the easiest to thin, but I think they're terrible as airbrush paints. Do you disagree?
I'm gonna kind of disagree with you, like on some of that stuff. I think Vallejo is the one. Like, there's these ones. I think it is Vallejo. They come in these like tiny little squirt bottles, actually, and they're actually meant to be used for when you're painting miniatures, like little Warhammer shit. But they're actually really good in airbrushes because they're already in a little squirt bottle, and they're actually thin enough that you can actually just drop it in there and you're good to go. The Yeah, definitely use acrylics when you're using your airbrush. Don't use it, like, if you can use enamel, but it's a pain. Like, it's already a pain in the ass to clean the airbrush. Don't make it harder on yourself than you have to, essentially.
I see. They're great for like the most basic of starting points, because I started with Vallejo, but the problem I ran into is they chipped and they scraped off so easily. No matter how much primer I used, I just could not get those suckers to stick to Gundam models, and that's after washing them. That was after priming them. Vallejos just did not stick. They just kept flaking off. They kept scraping off, no matter how much tender love and care I did to them. They are great for hand painting. I think they're probably the best hand painting paints you can buy.
They are expensive too.
Oh yeah, for the little bottle. If you thin them up, like the regular Vallejo, not the Vallejo Air, which is what you're talking about, they're actually really good for what you get. Is you thin them up a little bit and they work out, and they've got pretty good self-leveling kind of tendencies. But I would start with Model Master paints if I were you. If you want to do it nice and you're willing to spend a little bit of some time and maybe some practice, buy a little bottle of Model Masters paint and use that. You can buy model paints, like model primer paint for airbrushing, in like a big old jar. I've got a big old jar of primer paint that I use. It's like, it's probably about a pint of primer. And whenever I need to prime something, I just fill a little cup on my airbrush to the brim and just spray whatever, do light coats all over the model kit, and that should do me good. But I recommend Model Masters. Matt, do you have anything you'd recommend as for paints for airbrushing?
No, because you're the one who told me to get what I have.
Model Master's good. Tamiya acrylics are actually pretty good.
Yes.
You just have to make sure that you really get in there and stir them and mix them up.
Yeah, you got to mix both of them up, because acrylics kind of settle. Lacquers settle, but lacquer paint this is something I didn't mention about lacquer paint, is lacquer paint, when it's exposed to lacquer thinner, becomes paint again. It's because it doesn't chemically cure, it just dries. That's why it works the way it does. So why acrylics, they separate, and same with enamels, they separate, so you guys shake them up and mix them up, and preferably stir them up, because that's the best way to make sure it's evenly distributed in the paint jar. But as for airbrushes themselves, the airbrush itself is kind of a matter of preference. Do you guys have any airbrushes you prefer?
Iwata clips.
Yeah.
Definitely use those.
That is a very popular line. I've heard about that. I almost forgot that the Iwata Eclipse is a very basic airbrush, but it is also it works because it is basic. It works,
I mean, there's all kinds of different ones that you can get that are in the Eclipse line.
Yeah.
Kind of, they're like, from fairly cheap to like ridiculously expensive, because they have these tiny little needles in them and these tiny little heads.
Yeah.
They're really meant for like doing really tiny little detail work. Those are expensive. If you just go get like their regular like Eclipse, they're honestly like the best airbrushes I can think of to buy. Like, I will say this much for airbrushing, is the parts are kind of expensive for like the stuff that's inside the airbrush, and so you do have to handle them very carefully with kid gloves, because they're so small and they do break if you're not careful with them.
Yeah, and the needle on the Iwata style is long. It's very long. So you have to be careful not to snap the very tip of that, because if you do that, you have to buy another one. And those, that's kind of, you usually can't get those domestically unless you live in a fairly large city. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, you'd have to ship them, and that risks having them damaged again, you know.
yeah. Just if you have to buy the parts, buy them online. Like the funniest part is there's actually this one. I can't really properly describe it like too well. The most expensive part of the airbrush is this little piece on the inside that's between the like sort of this like little end cap that holds it all together on the end, and the needle goes through this piece, and that actually creates sort of like a little tube for like how the paint flows through the airbrush. Like so when you're pulling back on the like the little button on
The
the top,
trigger, the trigger.
the trigger, that needle moves through this little piece, and that's actually the most expensive piece of the airbrush. Is this
Yeah,
tiny little piece that you have to keep ridiculously clean and be ridiculously careful with because
yeah,
you will break it.
yeah. I would, for me and my preference, I actually own a. Is it a Testers? It's an Aztec. It's an Aztec brand. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
Testers. Testers
Aztec.
Aztec. I like it because the tips of them are easily and cheaply replaced. You can, in essence, it's not, the needle is not a long shaft. The needle actually is contained within the head of itself, which can be easily replaced and used for different. I can buy different head types, like one that does splatter or one that does fine detail. Somebody's phone's going off. Who's getting all them text messages from the girlfriend?
That would be me.
He's like,
Can you guys hear the new type noise?
no, I can't hear the new
No.
type noise. That'd be actually relevant.
That's what my text tone is.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I couldn't hear it. I was like, I just hear, "Rrr, rrr." But no, the
Well,
Az.
I'm on my phone, so
Well, yeah. Just turn it off. Just turn it, and he goes dead. Just turn it all off.
just a real quick side note. I found a Craigslist ad that this guy, he has a bunch of MSIAs and models and everything, and he wants $550 for this. And if you're listening to this guy, or if you hear this at some point, you're from Philly Art Museum. I contacted you like 6 months ago, trying to buy stuff off you, and you said no, I have to take it all. You've had this thing on Craigslist for 6 months. Obviously, nobody's going to buy it, so please tell me what I want.
Please give it to me. Just give it to me.
What's $550 for like a box of MSIAs?
Of broken MSIs.
No, they're all in decent shape, but he's got the arch enemies, which are like really hard to find, and he's got the deluxe MSIAs, which are like the perfect grade size ones. So, but anyway.
Well, I've put up here a picture of the Aztec. As you can see, there's different types of airbrush nozzles for it. This is my preferred airbrush. This is what I like. As for the Iwata, if you'll give me a second, I'm going to pull that up. Iwata Eclipse. Icarus. Let's see if
Yeah.
they've got. See
What is
these
going on here?
Jumanji.
They're pretty different. Like I would honestly recommend for some. I'm sorry. I mean I was gonna say the one that you have
The
for
Aztec.
like a big. Yeah, sorry. The Aztec, if you're starting out, just because it's cheaper and like it's a little bit more resilient than the Iwata, but like if you want one that's gonna like do everything that you can possibly think of, like and is a little bit more high performance, then go for the Iwata.
Well, the Iwata actually is because this the one on the left hand side, it's capable of only doing one thing, but it's much better than the one on the right. But if you want to, you have to have multiple versions of this Awada, each version for whatever need you need it for. Then the Aztec, which is you buy an Aztec and you just buy like the $5-10 nozzle heads that fit into it. That's the reason why I like the Aztec a bit more. But cleanup is a little bit difficult for the Aztec because you have to clean every component from the inside of the nozzle, kind of fuselage, I guess is a good way to put it, and the inside of the nozzle itself with the needle and the spring that it has in there. But I would recommend either one, frankly. Because I think they are good and good and purdy.
They each one has its little pros and cons. I would say, and like you can get like an airbrush compressor off of Amazon like for fairly cheap, honestly. Like
there's two things you will need for an airbrush compressor. You can buy any airbrush compressor so long as it doesn't blow up, so long as it doesn't catch fire, it's good. Because
so long as it doesn't explode.
Yeah, they're the most simplest thing you can buy. Unlike the airbrushes themselves, the compressor is cheap. Although you can find some with a canister that can hold air and keep the pressure up. So that one actually is preferred. But if you want one that's cheap, go for like a $50 or $20 compressor on Amazon. Preferably one that I'm gonna pull up. Another one of those, preferably one that looks like this. Forgive me here. I'm going to pull up a picture.
Yeah.
These are wrong type of airbrush. These are not even airbrush compressors. These are just straight up air compressors. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on here. I'm going to pull it up. It's in essence, it's just a pneumatic pump, is what it is. Pretty cheap. There you go. Airbrush compressor. Pretty easy. One like that, if it looks like that and it doesn't get too hot. Now, if you notice off to the side of the compressor, that's something that you will need. You don't think you need it because you don't understand it, and neither did I. That is a humidity catcher. It's to capture any water and air and water from the air that gets caught in the compressor to prevent it from going inside of your airline and then mixing in with your paint, which could ruin your paint job. So be sure to buy that.
Like for me, where I live, because I live like in a freaking desert, it's not as important. But like if you live like in the northwest, like you need one of these things because you will have moisture in your air and it will get into your compressor and into your airbrush unless you have this thing.
Yeah, it will ruin. Here, I'm pulling up all the pictures.
The only other thing
can't see the picture.
I know. They can't.
The other third part. The third part of this is that you need this thing called a regulator, which lets you regulate how much pressure is coming through your compressor.
It's usually you can find
for an airbrush you need somewhere between, like at maximum you want 25 pounds of pressure. Like the normal running is somewhere about 10 to 15. So don't try to push like 30 or 40 pounds of pressure through the airbrush because that's not what you want. That will make things horrible and potentially break things.
The more pressure you put into it, the more paint it will spew out. But that's not necessarily a good thing. So
that's not.
As you can see on this picture here, you can see this dial which controls it, and this little black piece sticking up is just a control piece, so you can control how much pressure it builds. But preferably you can find some of these with with a tank along with it, which should help with all of that. So, but it's buy that. You will need it. It's important. So
the other thing I know people that have done, and you can do, is actually like buy what is that called? Like you go to like a store and you get like a giant like tank of compressed air.
Oh gosh!
like like something that looks like a giant tank of helium, but
Yeah.
it's just compressed air. You can actually use those, and there are people that use that as their airbrush propellant
Oh, really?
instead of actually having a compressor.
Yeah, don't. I would never recommend that because once you start
Actually,
losing pressure, you may not even notice, but once, yeah.
you would know because of the regulator. And the
Uh,
thing
s-
is, like,
mm,
it's not like it's not quite frankly, it's not as good as having a compressor. But there are some instances where it does work. But like that, those are like where you're doing like demonstrations and like you've got multiple people using the same airbrush, that kind of stuff. Like if normal everyday use, you don't really, it's not exactly the best way to go, but it is
yeah.
an option.
And I've seen some people buy like those cans, like the tiny cans that look like typical cans of paint. Or it's like, and that I tried doing that, and that was just terrible. And kind of honestly, I think the best for delivery of paint, which is also important for an airbrush, is you saw with the ones I pulled up earlier, those were gravity fed, which means gravity just pushes the paint in there, and I think that's the best option. You can
Yeah.
go with some other forms, but I think the gravity fed is the best. It works the best, and it's easier to
Like,
clean up typically.
yeah, there's basically two ways this works. Is like there's either like kind of like a canister that you attach underneath your airbrush, and it actually pulls the paint up through this larger
This
canister.
it's siphon fed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's siphoning,
Or
yeah.
or it goes down into this little cup through gravity. The reason why you would have a siphon is if you're doing a very large surface area. Like for model kits, it really doesn't make that much sense unless you're finding yourself doing a lot of perfect grades for some strange reason.
Yeah. So I think that there's a few things. Matt, as a person who's beginning airbrushing, anything you wish to add? Or any questions you have?
Trying to think.
He doesn't think
Not
very.
really, no.
We answered all the questions. I guess his last question is: do you clean your pieces before priming? We kind of already answered that. So
Yeah, just my one additional thing is with the airbrush, keep that sucker clean. Keep it as clean as you possibly
Yeah.
can. Like keep the inside of that thing when you're not using it so clean that you could eat off of it because
even if
you
you're
want it that way.
yeah, even if you're not gonna use lacquer paint, buy lacquer thinner because lacquer thinner eats all paints, and you can soak a lot, pretty much all forms of airbrushes in lacquer thinner, and it will eat all the paint off. It will eat it
Well, you
off.
can.
So
The thing is, you want to be careful about that because you can soak the metal pieces, but if you have any pieces in there that are rubber, like the O-rings, that will be eaten by the lacquer thinner. So you have to be careful with that.
see, I've never had problem with lacquer eating that, and I've had the plastic. I have a plastic Aztec, unlike the one I pictured. It's a little bit of the cheaper one. It doesn't have all the fancifulness and the nice rubber grip, but it's never had any issues with the lacquer thinner actually eating
Really?
the plastic on that. I guess it's because it's a different type of plastic, or it's
Yeah.
designed for it, which is probably like, I'm glad you thought of it because I didn't. So, but yep, but
You have to, yeah, but if you have rubber O-rings, you have to be careful with those because you can actually eat through those when you're cleaning your airbrush. A lot of them actually have neoprene, or you can get neoprene rings, O-rings, and those will be fine. You just make sure you're careful with that because you can eat through them if you're not
well,
entirely careful.
well, and usually if you're just cleaning like the nozzle, the tip of it, letting it sit in a bath of lacquer paint kind of helps because you sometimes can't get in the little grooves and crevices very well, especially on the Aztec brand that I pulled up because it literally is a tiny thing. You have to get a Q-tip and clean it out like it's your ear.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah.
My actually recommended the top tool that I personally think everyone should get to clean their airbrush is pipe cleaners. Like not pipe cleaners from like you would get like at a freaking Hobby Lobby or something, but like you go to a tobacco store and get pipe cleaners because what that lets you do is you just put that thing through the end of your airbrush and like just pull it all the way through and you're good.
Yeah, or just basic Q-tips for the Aztecs, because I know that's the Aztecs are so small that the Q-tips don't work, or not the
Yeah,
Q-tips that
definitely
pipe
if
cleaners
you're
don't work.
cleaning the tip part, at least because, like I said, I'm talking about mine, which is an
Yeah,
Eclipse.
yeah,
You definitely want to soak the little metal part that's in there in some kind of lacquer thinner or something to keep it nice and clean.
yeah,
Like that's the best way to keep that little thing clean because it's so tiny you can't really get through it otherwise. Like you don't even bother.
yeah. So on to the next question, which is relevant because it's anti-airbrush. How do you do camo painting even if you don't have an airbrush?
Don't ask
Ken,
me. I don't do camo.
this is yeah.
I don't do camo painting.
Well, this is from Romero
I would
Armenta.
imagine that the best way to
Sorry.
I would imagine the best way to do it is the way I would do it is if there's not a specific paint that kind of like blends,
Mm-hmm.
um I would just mask bits off.
Yeah, I
Like
would.
like what I would do is if I would paint like say I would paint like a Zaku brown, and then I would tape off parts of the kit and then leave areas open and then spray those areas black or something and make it camo or whatever.
Yeah. Let's say let's say if you're doing like a typical green camo, and it's the person who asked was Romero Armenta. Romero Armenta? Forgive me. Terrible with names. But I would, yeah, like Matt said, mask it. Maybe you can be inventive in how you mask it if you want it to look kind of dirty and a little less like giant just splotches as you can kind of see. But masking it would work. Just like you said, paint over one bit. If you're wanting it to be softer, though, as in like the mask was like this small amount of like a soft shift, you got to be a little bit more inventing, or at least a little bit more patient, because you might have to do one light coat, extremely light coat that kind of shifts everything so it doesn't look nearly as like hard edged on the camo. So that would be my recommendation. Although there may be some places that you can buy an adapter for spray cans to make it a bit more softer, so it does softer paint jobs instead of giant splotches. So there you go. I would seek that.
The closest I've ever done to camo is it's not even camo, it's like battle damage and stuff, and battle damage is probably like yeah.
What? Guys?
What?
You guys just went dead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Matt. You dead? He's dead. He's dead, Jim. He's dead.
He's definitely dead.
He's dead. Skype, you failed us. You
You
fool.
failed us for the last time.
Yeah. I guess
This happens sometimes.
Yeah, Skype. See. Okay, let's send them a message real quick. You okay? We are bad mouthing you right now.
You died. Now
You
we're talking
are
shit about
no
you.
longer Momo's friend. He's crying in the corner, you horrific beast. There you go. All right. Now we'll wait for Matt to come back on. Probably because his phone might have died. But one last thing for the camo paint is you could try hand painting it, and I don't think they'd look too terrible. You know,
Nah.
you just hand paint it, just be soft and gentle, and do light coats and make sure it's pretty even and consistent. If you don't want to mask it, I know a couple friends like Daniel Mason who hand paints all of his kits. He doesn't spray paint; he just hand paints everything if he wants to do a custom job, and it turns out pretty good. And I've seen some kits that look professional grade level of painting, and it was entirely hand painted, and you couldn't tell that it was because it was just that good. It looked like it was airbrushed. So if you're just calm and patient, you can be able to do really good job. So that's an option. Let's see. Phone issue. Give me a second. All right, Matt's going to be back on, but one last question for the night before we probably will wrap this sucker up.
Okay.
Clearing my voice. What are some of your more popular mods or conversion you do see or see on Gunpla? By Garrett Watson. Preferably 1/144th. I'm actually doing a conversion for the real grade Exia for the Exia Avalanche Dash. I'm not done yet though, so I can't brag about it. But mods and conversions, usually it's you take one model kit and take another, and you just see what fits. And then if it doesn't fit, figure out a way to make it fit. Because it's as generic as I can possibly make it.
Mm-hmm.
Mamoru, you're like, I'm not impressed.
That's pretty much how it works.
Yeah, it's
You
at
just
the...
have to, like, you'll wind up cutting pieces up, putting them on top of each other, and just making stuff fit. Yeah.
Yeah, for mods and conversion, I've never seen popular ones per se. Usually it's something that's already existed turned into something else. Let's say like a master grade of the... Again, I've seen master grade versions of the Avalanche Exia, and that was not... They never made an Avalanche Exia. You know, there are resin kits that give you the ability to convert models into other styles and forms, and that takes a little bit of some pinning and some planning, but most of them are smart enough to design the resin to fit onto the model kit without much modification.
Yep.
But as for popular conversions, usually involve the Unicorn, I think, or the RX-78. Turning them into something, because I've seen some people turn like the Unicorn literally into a giant unicorn, which is cool. That was awesome. You know, the RX-78 is usually turning it into something else, you know, into some other variant of, you know, variant number 8,000,003. So yeah, those usually are the most popular. Sometimes Wing's fairly popular as well. Usually it's lead suits and Zaku's too.
Well, I see a lot of like conversions for like the different GMs and stuff. That's what you see a lot of too.
Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of... Yeah. For me, I like to do... I do what's possible because I'm not that great at scratch building components. Yeah. You know, I've seen people on what was his name? Vegeta8259. That's his YouTube channel name, not his real name. Forget his real name. Forgive me. But he did like the Oz project a couple years back, and he completely scratch built every suit from Wing Oz. Oh no. Looks like Matt's headset's dying. Oh no. But yeah, he did a pretty good job there, and a lot of people, usually it's, you, like we said, it's just you take components of another kit and combine it onto another, and Bandai seems to be liking that prospect, you know, with Build Fighters coming out and all of the add-on packs they're selling. So I think it's not too hard. You just have to be creative and imaginative. And, you know, most people are pretty cool. If you ever get bored and you need inspiration, just go on Gundam Guy or, oh shoot, what's another one? I always use Gundam Guy, but there's several other sites. Just go on a hobby modeling site and just scroll down and look at the pictures. Look at what other people are doing right now, you know? And you can see what some people are doing, because some people have been, like, scratchy Norn master grades because they didn't the P Bandai exclusive, because it's like, no, that thing's expensive and I can't afford it, so I'm just gonna build my own. There was one man who wanted to build a master grade of the Gundam Turn X. He wanted to build that, and it's like, oh wow, dude, you headlong into this, aren't you? He wanted to do that.
Yeah.
There's a site on Facebook that I gotta pull up here. I'm gonna pull it up. They have like a Gunpla recipe every so often, which is like conversions, usually simple conversions. Like how to get like resin kits to look like this, how to make like the Impulse Destiny version, with the wings and everything. So he's let's see, what is it? I gotta pull this up.
Cooking with Gunpla. I like that
Cooking
idea.
Momo, we need to cook. Ah!
Hopefully, there's enough salt on White Base. That's all I can say.
The salt is real. Unfortunately, I'm blanking real bad on who this fellow is, and he posts quite regularly on Facebook. I know that. Maybe he'll come to me here in a minute, but yeah, there's numerous sites that can give you some advantages and give you some insight onto what it is.
Yeah.
But
there's actually quite a few different little websites out there that like talk about Gunpla building. Like, just Google things.
Yeah, it's the worst thing we could say, but it's also the best thing we could say. It's the only thing. It's the only thing we can pretty much say. It's.
I mean, yeah. If you have questions, you can always ask us. But if you can also just Google things, because like that's how I learned a lot of stuff. Was like, how do I do this? And I Googled it, and I found out through a YouTube video.
Yeah, and I've a lot of the things I try to do. For me, customization is not nearly. That's not as big a deal for me per se. The biggest thing I like to do is just try to realize a model kit. If the biggest thing for me is to realize a model kit from a TV show. I liked like the Unicorn Gundams. I have been desperately trying to find a way to make those clear bits iridescent, because I think that's a so cool looking thing. So
I was gonna say, you could probably use like a sparkly clear paint, or just a sparkly paint.
now, see, that's not good enough. That's sparkly. I want it to be like clean and smooth and perfect, because I am a perfectionist.
That I don't know if like there is iridescent paint, but like
it's not the same. It's not the same. It
would make it a solid color, and
Yeah.
kind of you would have problems with it, right?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a loser. I have to have it perfect.
But what I have heard is that the like for the Banshee at least, because it's yellow, you can actually put green LEDs in it and get it to glow green.
Oh, for the master grades? Yeah, that's another.
The Psycho Frame.
That's another popular thing. There's another thing is adding lights into your Gunpla, which is it's not too hard. You just need to know a little bit of some basic science for it to work.
Let me see if I can find this thing, because like there's this guy on YouTube that has like a really good things about this.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna show you. Shoot. That's not what. Hold on. Oh, don't goofed.
Find this guy.
Oh, don't goofed. Let me.
I'm looking for something here. I
Here's
didn't think about.
Here's the gentleman I was talking about earlier. It's this is GundamKitsCollection.com. Little conversion kits kind of thing, or little Gunpla recipes, I think is what he calls them. And here's one that he's posted up. It's a conversion kit you can buy for the Sandrock, for the Armadillo, and it's not out yet, but it's, you can find resources and places to be able to buy or just craft pieces, and they'll give you advice. Let me see if I can pull up some of his recipe stuff. My goodness, my computer's gone uber ugly slow. Sorry, guys. I'm closing things. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this because I think it's slowing everything down. Oh, it's slowing everything down because there's two of them open at the same time. What?
Let's see if I can find this thing.
But
oh no, that's not it. I thought it was, but no.
let's see. Featured contact privacy news tutorials. All right, but yeah, let's see. Painted, custom build, non-Gunpla fan art, LEDs.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah. Okay. Found it. This guy called Steezy on YouTube, and he has lots of cool tutorials on how to do LEDs and stuff.
Okay.
So
Well,
let me see if I can put that up, just that link up there in the chat at the very least.
I would highly, highly appreciate that, sir. Thank you. I'm closing some tabs here. I think that's what's slowing my computer down.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't like it when you do web addresses in
YouTube.
I'll just it does in YouTube. So let me see if that will do it.
Okay.
You have to like put spaces between everything because it's being stupid. You know how that is. Like so no W do. So I'm gonna have to put like a bunch of spaces in here, and hopefully.
Oh, they don't. Yeah, they don't like the. Yuck. But no. To answer your question, Mallard, is it's pretty much it's not hard to do a custom. You just have to think it out and plan ahead. Is the biggest criteria for accomplishing that. And like I said, for the Exia Avalanche Dash custom I'm working on, I had to buy a real grade Exia, and I bought the Avalanche Dash, and I had to test fit constantly. Everything that I wanted to put on, test fit, and customly craft components that would fit into the model kit, and had to make some sacrifices. Like, do I want it to be able to be a regular real grade Exia once I'm done? I was like, well, no, because certain pieces don't fit and allow me to have that chance, so I have to just settle for the fact it's like, well, it's like this. So you've got to have a clear understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. Make drawings, go out and Photoshop and paint up things, take pictures. I've seen people who take the basic like line art and add in like God Gundam's arms onto Freedom's body with the head of Wing Zero. And, they're like, okay, that looks cool. And they just do that and figure out a way to make it work. So just do a little planning ahead of time is probably the best thing you can do. Or if you're like a free spirit, just do it as you go. It's like, well, I've got a high grade bear guy and a real grade red frame, which isn't even out yet, actually, now that I think of it. And I want to be able to make him hold a sword and have the V-fin and everything. How do I do that? Just think, just plan, think ahead, use your brain. Is this the gentleman here that you were talking about?
Yeah.
I might even have to watch him because I've been trying to find a good LED kind of group. How to make a Gundam LED unit. Ooh.
Yeah, you can make them yourself. Cheaper too than having to buy those things.
Yep. And he is Steezy. Yep. So that's that ain't bad. I'd go check him out. I think I've seen some of his stuff before, but
the videos are really good. Like he's done some things where it's just like he'll like walks through how he built something, and other things where this is how you do this, and like how you calculate the like voltage and the ohms and all that random stuff you have to do to do the LEDs.
Yeah.
But, so he explains it better than I could. So.
And a controversial figure that I can say for customs, not controversial in their customs they make, is Prime 92. She got into trouble a while back for things I'm not going to even bring up, but she does do some great custom model kits. If you want to see like some really cool radical like just customization model kits that you can kind of see in like Build Fighter-esque style. She's been doing them for years and has a ton of them. So I check out her channel if you want to see just straight up customs with custom paint jobs, stuff like that. She usually is pretty inventive. She invented like a fire and ice double O riser using some of the backpacks for the hobby magazines that came out a long time ago. So she's pretty inventive when it comes to customs. But yep. So all right, I think that does it for our questions. It looks like Matt is still out and about. He's apparently something happened to his phone's headset. Now he can't continue with the chat. Let me give him one last little thing and see if he wants to be able to join us. So I was hoping we'd have enough time to be able to talk about the recent announcements, but we're kind of running low on time, guys. I'm sorry. It's almost at the 2-hour mark, and that is like another hour-long discussion. A 3-hour-long streams is a bit much for me, guys. I've only got 4 hours of sleep.
Someone has not been sleeping. Okay. All right.
Well, you know me. Nah, I'm joking. I'm not like that. I'm not like you, Momaru.
Yeah, I sleep a lot, actually.
Oh, yeah, sleep. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, sleep. That's
Okay, yeah, I guess Matt is out. Something happened with his phone or something.
Okay.
Looks like.
Well, darn in a barn. So, all right, guys. I thank you for coming out and listening to our interesting and riveting discussion, and I hope you learned something today. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will try to answer them as best I can. And I really do appreciate you guys coming out to, just coming out here in general, you know? You guys rock. You're the coolest people ever.
Yep.
You just like, yes, you came, I asked you questions. Well, I asked you a question to have questions, and you answered. And hopefully we answered your questions. So I really appreciate you guys. And this stream will be later on uploaded onto, it will be later on uploaded onto my account, which is RoboLizard222. And if you ever need to leave me a question that you don't want other people to see, feel free to find me on Facebook. I'm Russell Thomas Davis, or just type in RoboLizard, just RoboLizard, and just send me a message, and I'll see if I can be able to answer your questions on there. Or just shoot me a tweet on Twitter, and we'll see if we can get everything helped and handled. Because, yay! We all want to be able to help people out with this community, and I appreciate everybody who is trying to get into this, because it's like, oh yeah, build fudge is great, let's build model kits. So anything you want to close on, Momaru, before we go?
I don't have too much to say. Just if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Momaru81, and just feel free to hit me up if you want to talk to me about whatever we talked about today.
And if you're pretty, and handsome or beautiful, just send him pictures. Just send him pictures. He likes that. It doesn't.
Oh God! Now we're gonna get dick pics, and it's gonna be your fault.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I asked for pretty, handsome, and wonderful. Pretty, handsome, and wonderful. AKA pretty, handsome, and wonderful.
Great.
Oh, I could feel the pissed offness coming from the computer screen. It's like,
great.
It's too much. Momaru, why? But again, thank you. Thank you guys for listening. If you liked what we did and wish for us to continue doing any more, subscribe, like, comment, whatever. Do what you can. I'd greatly appreciate that. I would just to quote the great and mighty Doofus McGoofus, Shia LaBeouf, just do do it! All right. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and I wish you guys a fond farewell. Goodbye.